Beings limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All Mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All Mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness. May they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. Thus, until I achieve Buddha, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time, tomorrow, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. And now the refuge recitation. If you have the opening and dedication PDF, that is around page 5 or 6. If you have the Beja, it's 77. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. May all Mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all Mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all Mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. And just remember to let both body and mind settle into ease. Nothing to do in any kind of overt way of fixing anything, neither overtly fixing body or fixing mind, but rather with the spirit of inviting body and mind to settle into ease. Then to help body settle into ease, you may try to scan body to find one part of the body that you recognize to be experiencing pleasant, restful, relaxed. And from that place, let it radiate to the rest of your body. Likewise with mind, it is skillful to recall as a virtuous occasion where joy is experienced with regards to a virtuous object. A virtuous object is an object that doesn't necessarily stir up sensuality, stir up more distraction, but rather an object that is able to bring joy to the mind and settle the mind. So recall such a virtuous object, an experience of joy, satisfaction, and then let the mind radiate that. Sometimes there's an overemphasis on trying to tell body what not to do and what mind telling mind not what to do, so that our meditation, our attempts at formal meditation, at best becomes merely an exercise in discipline, and even harsh discipline, and at worst it becomes an endless, futile battle as the body and the mind seems to not cooperate. And then you exert more energy, more force, which will just become this struggle. So instead, enter into formal meditation by inviting body and mind to settle into ease. Tuning into one part or one section of body that feels relaxed, and let that relaxation be infectious. Tuning into a memory of recent experience of joy or satisfaction, and let that spark a more pervasive experience of satisfaction, ease, and joy. Then naturally body and mind will be satisfied to not move, to not run, but to sit together and meet each other as if they were identical twins separated at birth and now finally meeting each other, content, and perhaps even a little curious as they look at each other. In this way, you naturally become content. Do not have to move, do not have to fidget. Neither the body is fidgeting, nor the mind is fidgeting. Both body and mind satisfied to settle, to become quiet, and to enjoy this moment, moment to moment to moment. Just one moment, just one breath. Experience and attend to just this one moment of ease, physical ease, and emotional joy. One moment, and one moment, and one moment. When the body is content and happy to settle into ease and to become unmoving, that is related to the quality of mind, the innate ability of the mind to be stable, not so easily rattled, not so easily moved. And hold your body up straight, but in a relaxed way, but upright. And that promotes, that brings out the mental quality of brightness, clarity, sharpness. Do not be afraid of sense experiences turning up or arising. So there's no particular need to control the sense doors by shutting them. There's no particular need even to shut your eyes or to try to plug your ears or anything of that sort. If your eyes are open, lower your gaze so that it's less distracting, but no need to close them, because sometimes closing your eyes might stir up a lot of thoughts. Because your mind is feeling like it has not enough activity when the eyes are closed. Then it makes up stories to try to keep it entertained. So just as you don't plug your ears when you meditate, or you don't try to cover your tongue with some taste-proof material when you meditate, or you don't put a clip around your nose so that you don't smell things that are distracting. In the same way, there's no particular need to close your eyes either, but rather leave the sense doors open, let them function as they are to function. But because you have understanding, and understanding that leads to a determination to not move, and as taught in yesterday's teachings about the innately birthless nature of mind, the innately empty nature of mind, recognizing that emptiness, then all the distractions become rather uninteresting for either body or mind to chase. Okay. So sometimes in the beginning, even in the beginning of the session, or you feel like you're just beginning to get familiar again to sitting this way, practicing in this way, with your breath, you can make it slightly louder and longer, and then listen to the sound of your own breath going in, going out, going in, going out. A little louder, a little longer. Then let it then naturally, and let it go back to natural breath, where it becomes not so hearable, not so loud. And then it becomes more subtle. And so that can also help bring the mind to the body as well. Because as you do that, your mind is satisfied to kind of just be in this vicinity rather than somewhere else, trying to do something else, planning something else. So, now let's look at the Great Drikung teachings to the assembly. Yesterday we covered the next section, which was the section on, or the rest of that section, which talks about distraction as the cause of samsara. And so the recordings are posted onto the YouTube, the Drikung Dhammakirti YouTube channel, fairly quickly, not instantaneous. Our team is very diligent in trying to get them posted sooner rather than later. So you can check in with there. You can also subscribe to the channel and, all kinds of settings for you to be notified when there's something new and all of that. And all of that is done, freely and offered freely. So is what we do here every day. So, but do recognize that it's because so many people are volunteering to make this possible. So now, basically yesterday, the part that we covered, Kyopa Rinpoche is giving us, offering us insights into how, when the mind is distracted, then the result is what we call samsara. But when the mind is in this mental absorption, so we talked about that, and the terms dhyana and samadhi, or samten and tingezin in Tibetan, how these terms have nuances, depending on which tradition, which teacher, they use these terms differently, and even maybe with the same teacher under different contexts, it's used differently. So we should be careful not to be too rigid with, dhyana or jhana means this, samadhi means that. The overall meaning and emphasis here, what I offered yesterday, is that whenever these terms are translated as meditative absorption, which I believe is the translation for dhyana, or meditative concentration is samadhi, often is translated like that. But when these terms are used here, I think it's not talking about something very specific, but rather more general. And here general, it really means more basic, more important. that the samadhi or the dhyana we're talking about is not one that comes about by applying force, like forcing the mind, controlling the mind, even like sharpening the mind, that is like a laser light focus on one thing, and then completely, I hear people talk about, being able to meditate until I don't hear anything anymore. Presumably they're saying, without plugging my ears, I don't hear anything anymore. Wow, this meditation is amazing. Well, if that's the case, just put, very good, these days they make these earphones, right? Very good, that can cancel out all noise, all sound, no need to meditate. But here, Rinpoche said, then the opposite is when the mind settles with calm abiding and insight. When the mind settles that way, right, then the result is what we call nirvana. And so samsara and nirvana not being some location somewhere out there, but rather as the mind is distracted, that is what we call samsara. The mind free from distractions is what we call nirvana. Then free from distractions, and instead of being distracted, being undistractedly settle in what? Settle in the recognition, settle in the understanding, settle in the realization of the innately, primordially emptiness nature of mind. So briefly, that was what we talked about yesterday, but we also talked about some of the more kind of on the surface, kind of hard to understand immediately, but that I suggested that don't try to kind of do this kind of Buddhist debate thing, but rather with your experience, try to hear these words, these instructions with your own experience in training your mind, and try to listen to these words with this framework, rather than consistency and logically, not that it's illogical, but then it's not quite written as, this is not even written, these are transcripts of oral teachings that Kyöpa Rinpoche gave in the 12th century, right? So anyway, the next section is mind and conditions. And we also looked at this, actually. I forgot. Mind and the conditions, we also looked at this, how, when, so the example given here is, it says, think of the mind as like a piece of crystal, and then when you put the crystal onto a red surface, it seems like the crystal has turned red if you put it on. Then I suggested, right, what they didn't have, in the 12th century is what we have today, what we call glass, like clear glass, right? I think glass works better for this analogy, You put a piece of glass, flat glass, onto a black surface. It looks as if the glass is black. You put, this glass onto a polka dot pink surface, pink and white polka dot surface. It looks like the glass is polka dot pink and white. But no matter how long, right, you put this glass together with this pink polka dot, pink and white polka dot surface, the glass never becomes pink and white polka dot. So Gilbert in this next section emphasizes that. Then he also talks about, right, when the confusion disappears, where does it disappear into? It says it doesn't disappear anywhere else. It doesn't go somewhere else. It's not like it's vacated and moved to the next state. Not like that. When it dissolves, when it disappears back into the mind because it's a projection of the mind. So it says like clouds in the sky, they don't go somewhere else. They dissolve back into the sky and bubble on the surface of water or waves on the surface of water. When you don't see them anymore, it's not like they've gone somewhere else. They just dissolve back, settle back into water. So now in this next section, it's called Ways of Dealing with the Conditions. Now, with the aspiration to awakening of a hearer, so now, Gilbert Rinpoche would expand on the three types of awakening. He has already used this quite a bit in the sections that we already covered as a quick reminder or refresh. Right? The three types of awakening is the awakening of a hearer, of a Shravaka, and the bodhi or awakening of a solitary realizer, a Pratyeka Buddha, and the awakening of the bodhi of a complete and perfect Buddha, called Samya Buddha in Sanskrit. So these are the three types of awakening, the three types of, three even levels of awakening, accepted across all Buddhist traditions. Where they differ is, some tradition, like in the Mahayana tradition, they say that the awakening of a Shravaka and the awakening of a solitary realizer, they are lower awakenings. I think actually all Buddhist traditions accept that they are lower awakenings compared to that of a complete and perfect Buddha, a Samya Sambuddha. But somehow, in the other traditions, even though these two are the lower awakenings, they accept them as final goals, as potentially also final goals. That you attain those awakenings, then that's it, nothing more beyond that. But in the Mahayana tradition, they say that if there are three awakenings and we accept that these three awakenings are at different levels, then it doesn't make sense that the two that are considered lower than the Samya Sambuddha can be, in a literal way, a final result. If there's something higher, how can the other two levels of awakening be final? Yeah. Now, you don't have to accept or reject the logic. I'm not trying to persuade you. You have to come to your own conclusion. I'm just pointing out like some of the questions that surround this idea of three types of awakening. The awakening of a hearer, the awakening of a solitary realizer, and the awakening of a perfect and complete Buddha. And pointing out that in the Mahayana tradition, and which is this comes from that Mahayana tradition, it says that the only final awakening, the only awakening that reaches finality, is that of a Buddha, a complete and perfect Buddha. And more importantly, in the Mahayana tradition, it says that, and in that state of awakening, the ability to benefit other sentient beings is at its highest. The ability to benefit sentient beings is at its highest possible level. And in that way, and that is what makes it the highest form of awakening. There are also some debates, as to so if you hear so listening to this last statement, you could say, within the context of the two bodhicittas, right, or bodhicitta in its two aspects, the absolute and the relative aspect, it seems like this is emphasizing that the relative aspect is very important. Right? Because the relative aspect pertains to the love and compassion aspect. The absolute aspect pertains to the wisdom aspect. Likewise, there are some discussions and debates among the different Buddhist traditions of ancient India. Again, I think these traditions don't exist as they existed in India in the ancient times. They have evolved, some of them have died out, and so on and so forth. So I think it makes no sense to today identify these ancient debates and say, oh, these people are that group and those people are that group. And they have all evolved, they have all moved on, some died out, right? But it's helpful to understand the original context of these debates, of these discussions. So there are also discussions on, now, if the love and compassion of a complete and perfect Buddha is at its highest, therefore its ability, the state of Buddha's ability to benefit beings is the highest, what about the wisdom? Is there a difference? Some of them thought that there were no difference insofar as the wisdom, the solitary realizer, the hearer, and the complete and perfect Buddhas, no difference at all, they say. But most of them say, no, there is a difference also. And so then again, the Mahayana position, the general Mahayana position is, well, if there's a difference and if there is lower level, middling level, and upper level, then only that of a Buddha, the wisdom of a Buddha, can be considered final wisdom. So this is a little bit of background, so that I think with that you can maybe more fully appreciate what this next section, what he's talking about. So now with the aspiration to the awakening of a hearer. So for someone who follows the hearer path, before you embark on the path, before you train on that path, you also need to aspire. You also need to aspire to that kind of awakening. So with the aspiration to awakening of a hearer, those conditions are blocked like water by a dam. So here Kyoba says, when you make the aspiration to achieve the awakening of a hearer, what you have done with the conditions of distraction that we looked at the last couple of days, what you have done with those conditions is you have blocked them from interfering with you, like you would by building a very strong wall, a very strong dam to contain the conditions. And in that way, he says, then you continue to train until you attain the awakening, the bodhi of a hearer. Through practice with the aspiration to awakening of a solitary realizer, of a particular Buddha, the power of the antidotes blocks them like a dam, and the awakening of a solitary realizer is attained. Again, here the emphasis is blocking. So The last one and this one, not much difference. In a way, it's like he's not going to spend a lot of time explaining these two because he's not advocating these two. He is advocating the third. So the third, to purify. And here the word purify, I want to say, maybe a better word in English is actually to clear. Because you are clearing, that means removing. For example, when we say purify gold, let's say, what are we talking about there? To purify gold. Or like you say, I'm going to polish my silverware. What are you talking about there? Anyone? Someone? Quickly. What are you polishing? What's going on there when you polish your silverware or you purify gold? Are you able to unmute yourself or not? Let's see. Allow participants. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Okay.
Removing stains.
So it's the stains that are being removed, right? You're not actually improving the gold. Yeah, you're not making the gold more gold. You're not making your silver more silver. What you're doing is you're removing that which is not gold. You're removing that which is not silver. So here, to purify. So you have to understand, right? To purify here doesn't mean like the conditions can be made pure, or the conditions are like somehow refined. No, it means like to clear. So to clear and completely abandon all conditions is to attain the unsurpassable awakening. This is the third one. The aspiration to awaken completely into the state of a Samya Sambuddha. These are the three kinds of awakening. These three kinds of awakening arise from practicing the two aspects of meditative absorption, calm abiding, and insight. So he says, no matter which of the three awakenings you aspire to, and therefore which of the three paths that you train in, they equally require you to settle into the meditative absorption that has these two aspects of calm abiding and insight. Shamatha and Vipassana, not as two techniques that you engage in, but the two qualities of mind that you cultivate, that you have. As the sutra requested by Kinnara Kingdruma teaches, quote, calm abiding is when the mind is peaceful, and insight is knowing phenomena. The mind is peaceful. The mind is no longer, the heart is no longer agitated. The heart is no longer fluttering, moving, rushing. The heart is no longer so easily kind of being pulled, being swung in different directions. So peaceful, quiescent. And that's the calm abiding. Then insight is knowing phenomena. knowing reality. To know phenomena can also be translated as to know reality, is the Indian word dharma. Dharma has over 40 related meanings in Sanskrit. So in the Buddhist context, often it's referring to both phenomena and the truth about phenomena. So it has this kind of double meaning there. Meaning, if you truly know phenomena, if you truly understand phenomena, if you're actually looking at phenomena with the right insight, then immediately you understand the reality of these phenomena. So insight is to know dharma. Of these, calm abiding must be accomplished first. As the guide to a bodhisattva's way of life teaches, understand that someone well endowed with insight from calm abiding can destroy the afflictions. Therefore, first seek calm abiding. So this first line means that someone well endowed with insight that comes from, that arises from calm abiding, can destroy the mental defilements, the afflictions. And therefore, first seek calm abiding. And this is found in Shantideva's chapter on meditative concentration, the 8th chapter of the Bodhicharyavatara. This book, translated here by this group as the Way of the Bodhisattva. I like the handy size of it. Now, so he says, Shantideva says, first seek calm abiding. How? By delighting in non-attachment to the world. I prefer translating non-attachment as non-entanglement. Don't become entangled to the world. Don't get all tied up in a knot or in many knots. Don't get entangled. By delighting in unentangling from the world. Now we're all tangled up. But if we work on unentangling, then calm abiding comes. So it's not just a matter of techniques, little meditation hacks. Those things help, but we have overly emphasized them. I've talked many times about, we have and part of it is like, I think like us, as Americans, or, the American mindset, which is now all over the world. The so-called American mindset is one that is very trust a lot, in like technology. We put our trust in material technology. And so much so that even when we're doing cultivating spiritual practice, we take that kind of framework and put it in our inner work, which is we think that if we improve the technology, then obviously everything will get fixed. Whereas the Buddha's point is, it's the heart that needs to change. The heart can change more easily if it's assisted by the technology. The technologies of changing the heart. But if you are overly focused on the technologies of changing the heart, and forgetting that the determination to change the heart is something that you also need to put effort in. And then merely the technology is not going to do it. Because you may gather all kinds of and you do all your research, you consult all the experts, and finally you bought your special vehicle, and then you further enhance this vehicle, but fundamentally you don't want to go anywhere. You think you want to go somewhere, and you say, I'm going to invest in this vehicle. You think you want to go on this journey, but then you end up getting distracted by all the research you feel you need to do about, which vehicle to buy, and then you finally buy the vehicle, and then you quote unquote, pimp it out. you make it all fancy, you replace all the wheels and this and that, and then fundamentally you don't want to go, and then you become entangled further. So the determination of wanting to go has to be kept in the foreground. So it says, it goes on, it says, so the mind is distracted when it is attached to the pleasant forms among this world's objects of the five senses. Pleasant sight, sound, smells, taste, and touch. Sensations. So it is attached to pleasant forms, has aversion to the unpleasant ones, and then is indifferent to those who are neither. And likewise, when it is attached, averse, or indifferent to pleasant, unpleasant, sound, smell, taste, and tangible objects. And so meaning, these are the three poisons, attachment, aversion, and indifference. They are related to the three poisons. So we chase after pleasant objects, we run away from unpleasant objects, and we are indifferent in a dull way, in a not knowing way. When knowing is involved, it is not indifference. It's like composure, not moved. That's very different from this kind of ignorant indifference. Such a distracted mind does not attain calm abiding. What is the use of chasing after the pleasures of the five senses in this world and being caught up with all the advice of family and friends on how to earn your livelihood and other worldly matters? And so yesterday at the end, I talked about how at the end of this teaching, at this chapter, and this is a very powerful summary at the end. It says, to sum it up, we can't tell which will come first, tomorrow morning or death. Whether from a worldly or a dharma perspective, there has never been anyone who doesn't die. Therefore, stop all worldly elaborations and accomplish the meditative absorption of calm abiding and insight. And that's at the end of this chapter, in about a page or 2 pages away. That is the gist, like all our endeavors in this life, everything that we're attending to now. Have we really thought about, So what is the finality of this? What is this supposed to lead to? Now, one thing we know for sure, that whether objectively you like it or you don't like it, where all this leads to is the grave. So let's say, you're fortunate enough to have 5 minutes before you are lowered into your grave, and you are aware, you are awake, and everything. What do you think those 5 minutes you are going to be thinking about? Let's even say that there's no fear. Somehow, magically, miraculously, there isn't even fear. So take away the fear factor. Some of you remember this series. I don't know if it's still on TV. Take away the fear factor, let's say. And then what, Those last 5 minutes, you're going to say, yes, in this life, I've reached finality. Now good, I'm going to step into my grave now. Do you think this is the conclusion you're going to have? Now, all the tasty things you have tasted in the world during this 5 minutes, are you going to yes, I've tasted everything, and now I'm so happy. Is that going to be how it is? I have won all the arguments in my life. Now I step into the grave. Is this how it's going to look like? I have paid all my rent checks, my rent every month. I've written all my rent checks. Yes. I have made every mortgage payment. Yes. Everyone in my life has listened to me. Yes. Now I'm stepping into my grave. Is that how it's going to look like? Yeah. So what is this finality, with all the entanglements, with all the busyness that we invest in? On a day-to-day basis, it's all based on this idea, I think of, because when I wake up tomorrow, right, the fruit of your work today is often a delayed thing of, so that when I wake up tomorrow, right? But what is this waking up tomorrow going to look like? Another day of toiling, so that when I wake up tomorrow, and then again, right, step by step by step. Now, 5 minutes before you step into your grave, what is that tomorrow? That tomorrow, if it exists, Buddha says it exists, right? But if you come from a totally secular framework, then that tomorrow doesn't exist anymore. You step into the grave, then that's it. And what is it all for? If you accept what the Buddha says, yes, there is a tomorrow, so to say, when you step into your grave. What have you toiled this whole life for tomorrow, 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 tomorrow? What about that that is going to go with you to this next life? What? Nothing. Nothing tangible. Then among the intangibles, some drag you down, but some free you, make you more free, make you more powerful in your ability to benefit others. This is what this chapter is talking about. Making skillful choices while you have the right conditions still. Definitely not 5 minutes before you step into your grave. And then the thing is, almost all of us don't get that 5 minutes What is the use of chasing after the pleasures of the five senses in this world and being caught up with all the advice of family and friends on how to earn your livelihood and other worldly matters? As I said before, it is because of such things that we wander in samsara, the ocean of suffering, isn't it? Therefore, we should urge ourselves on with the whip of impermanence. With the whip, with the encouragement of encouragement / a little bit of intimidation and fear. After all, it's called the whip of uncertainty, impermanence. It is only when we are as disinterested in the world as the tiger or leopard is in green grass put before them that we can begin to accomplish calm abiding. So he says, all the little hacks that you want to apply is not as effective as a more basic change of attitude. We have these momentary wanting to change, momentary spurts of this attitude. So we have, because some of us say, well, I'm practicing all these hacks, so to say, in order to change my attitude. No. I can quite naturally, sometimes even without prompting, these determination comes up, I don't want these things anymore. I don't want to be entangled anymore. I don't want to chase these things anymore. I don't want to run away from them anymore. I want to be free. So these moments do come, So we just need to stabilize this. Once we stabilize this, then naturally calm abiding. Just a little bit of formal training. That calm abiding can be experienced a lot easier. Moreover, even this Tathagata in his final existence, as a bodhisattva who had completed the powers of merit and wisdom, still saw the four sights of an old person, sick person, corpse, and a renunciate, and vowed, having seen the old age and the suffering of sickness and also the death of heedless people, I will renounce worldly activities. So he says, even our Buddha in his final lifetime, the common telling of the story was like, Siddhartha saw these four sights and then decided to practice the path. But of course, in all Buddhist traditions, we say, no, actually, it's not like he has never understood these four things. In fact, he has trained many lifetimes. But still, in that final lifetime where he was so ripe to become a full and complete Buddha, he still needed to meet the right conditions. So conditions are not always negative. Conditions that entangle us and conditions that free us. So in this case, the condition that freed him, the catalyst at the end of his path, was seeing an old person, a sick person, a corpse, and a renunciate. So Denkyo Rinpoche says, since that was so for even someone like Siddhartha, who has trained so many eons to be awake, to achieve awakening, still, he needed this. So he says, so how much more necessary it is for the whole rest of the world, including the gods, to have these kinds of conditions and to not get caught up in the other type of conditions. Speaking of conditions, last night at our other group, the more focused group, the Drikung Dhammakirti, during the meeting, I received a rather urgent message requesting that that I pray for someone who is in the hospital. And so I did. And then I remembered, I thought, I should use that opportunity to say something to everyone. But then, of course, I got distracted. Distracted by what? Distracted by, oh, it's late already. Oh, it's late already. So now I will say it, Often when we're asked to pray for others or to dedicate merit to others, some of us may think, ultimately, everyone is the owner of their own karma. So what I can do is actually just placebo effect. But anyway, I'll do it. So some of us feel that way, like, it's just placebo effect. And then some of us also think, the some of us who have read too much, we think it's not even placebo, actually. It's just for my own benefit, actually, ultimately, because I'm developing more tenderness, more consideration, more compassion for the other person, but then effectively, the other person isn't really helped. So while I can appreciate, praying for others, but really, I see that it only makes me more tender, more open. So to that degree, it's good. So we may also think like that. But then some of us, and many of us, especially when we are asking for other people to pray for us, or to dedicate merit in more Buddhist kosher language, oh, please dedicate prayers for me. Dedicate. There, right? Some of us may then fall into the theistic position. Like, oh, these prayers are going to solve my problem. Or these prayers are going to solve my mom's problem, my dad's problem, my best friend's problems. All these, I think, positions are off. So it's related to this notion of conditions, and more specifically to the causes and conditions, which is, I think it's good that each time we people ask us or we are moved to pray for others, such as the conflict in the Middle East, such as the natural disasters that are in Vietnam and in places everywhere, more and more these unnatural natural disasters, which has been more and more fierce. When we are asked to, when we are moved to pray for others, to dedicate to others, I think we should really dedicate and pray in this way, which is, by the power and merit of whatever that I have done, whatever merit that I have witnessed being done, whatever merit that I know that exists in this world that has been done. So this is all consistent with Kyopa Rinpoche's teachings on how to bring together merit. He says even other people's merit you can dedicate, and it's not stealing. And that's what it's saying, is like, when you think of other people's merit, in some ways you have also tapped into their merit without stealing them. Merit doesn't work like, dollar notes in the bank. It works differently, slightly differently. And so you think, whatever merit that I have gained, that I do have, whatever merit that I have witnessed, whatever merit that I can think of, the great merit of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, may all of this merit become a condition for others to be healed, to be free from suffering, to be helped, to awaken, become a condition. When we dedicate in this way, when we pray for others in this way, then we also remind ourselves, it's not possible for us to cause other people to become happy, to become free from suffering. But we can always be contributing conditions for other people's happiness and well-being. Sometimes more powerfully, sometimes less powerfully, but always we can be a condition. So then we think, whatever good causes that they have created, may my condition help swiftly ripen those causes. So this is a Buddhist karma-informed way of truly praying and dedicating for others. By doing it this way, we don't, go through the motions on the one hand, oh yes, dedicating, oh yes, praying, but then, in there we're like, it's not going to help. On the other hand, it won't be like, oh yes, I pray. Oh yes, see, the person has gone better. Haha, see? I caused that. But rather the middle way of understanding that. Then, likewise, it also reminds us, our actions can also become a condition for other people's suffering. And for that kind of conditions, we abstain. We practice restraint. We do less and less. Good? This last piece, whoever is editing these videos, of course, post this whole thing under that, but this last one can be put in the, cut out into the playlist for, there's little drops of wisdom, I think they call that playlist in the YouTube website, YouTube channel. So anyway, I also want to say, thank you so much for those of you who are able to turn your video on during these sessions, because then it won't seem like I'm talking into outer space. Believe it or not, it does help me to see faces, to see all of you. Likewise, I know, some of you listening, attending class while getting ready to go to work. In fact, Anitsomo now is driving to work. So you are being kind also when you turn off your video because you think it'll be too distracting for everyone that you're walking up and down your house or apartment while you're listening to the Dharma, but frantically getting everything ready, to go to work. So I understand also those of you who are not able to turn on your video. But if you're not turning on your video because you're shy, please don't be shy, because, it really helps me. And I think it helps others to also see. Then one final thing too, also not to forget, it does bring some kind of accountability when you turn on your video. Trust me, you are least likely, you're less likely, not least, less likely to multitask and think you are actually listening when you turn on your video, because you are holding yourself accountable with the help of your Dharma friends. There is something to be said about that. So look into your own situation, your own conditions, as to why you are turning on and not turning on. See, it's all about understanding, to do something with understanding. So anyway, those of you who are able to, whenever you're able to, when you turn on your video, it's an offering. It's a form of offering that you are giving to me, to others, and to others who are looking and watching. So this is a good offering. Thank you so much. Chanchu Semchu Rinpoche Ma Ge Pa Nam Ge Gyunche Ge Pa Nyam Pa Me Pa Yang Gong ne gong du bell shou. Ta ta.